There's definitely sounds of someone using the door. So, there is the list.
Okay, whenever you're ready, it's next, we're good.
Right, good evening everyone, it's 6 o'clock. We'll start this evening's administration committee. No, I'm not Ian Corbin, for those of you who haven't noticed. Ian Corbin sends his apologies this evening, so Keith House in the chair this evening. We have a fairly straightforward agenda. No public participation has been notified. We'll take apologies first, but we already have from Ian, who's away, from Tanya, who's ill, and from Liz Jarvis, who's also ill but is joining us online, so will be recorded as being in attendance at the meeting as opposed to being present. Because Liz being down there, distant in Hamble, not in the room, you can't vote. You'll be disappointed to learn. So the rest of us that are here, myself, Councillor Tim Groves and Louise Jones. Minutes of the last meeting are here to note, if everyone's happy with those. As I said, there's no public participation. Does anyone have any declarations of interest to record? I would have thought so. Okay.
Rather than item 8, but I presume you will get dispensation.
Yeah, we will dispensation on item 8. Thank you. Item 5, Joe, quick update. Dress code.
So, Admin Committee, 22nd of November 21, you agreed the Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Policy and Conditions. Section was added in to Appendix 9 about dress code, and it was requested to add in smart black jeans, not torn or frayed, and we were going to review that 9 months later. Pleased to say the licensing enforcement officer said there's been no issues, all the drivers are complying, so as it stands the policy can remain as it is and there's no need to be amended.
Good, I'm sure we're all happy just to note that and so done and dusted, end of business for that, so thank you very much. Next item then is the appointment of the independent person. This is a process which report is self-explanatory on, and the recommendation here is we simply extend the existing appointment because it works and it's real difficult to recruit these people. Anyone got any issues with extending the existing independent person's time?
I've got a quick query really, which is we had extended it already in 2019 and we said that it was going to be extended to give the overlap because we were appointing somebody in 2020. Yeah, in 2020, which meant there was always going to be 2 years overlap. So if we end up with them both now technically leaving at the same time, we lose all the experience. I think that was the idea, that you would end up, you had, and that person has been in position since 2013. So I don't know who they are.
We could extend Chris Mardell if he's willing at that point, if we want to keep the overlap. And we don't need to take that decision now. The issue in front of us right now is do we extend the existing person.
But you can see why I'm querying, because that was the rationale. So that was our rationale, and then we. That's
a good point. We should revisit this informally. I'm sure Joe will pick it up to revisit it informally in say a year's time and see whether it's helpful to extend Chris Mardell's period. So we do always have that bit of experience retained, because it wouldn't be appropriate to extend Ms. Bernard any longer than that, given she's been here such a long time. Okay, everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Good, that's helpful, and thanks for that point, Louise. Next item, then, Hedge and Town Council Community Governance Review. Just for the record, I'm a member of Hedge and Town Council. I'm sure Derek wants to report the same. It's not an interest as such. There's no financial gain involved. Far from it. And so the recommendation here is to note that there's been effectively nothing new from the new consultation, and to agree the rewarding arrangements for Hedge and Town Council from next year's local elections. Any issues anyone wants to?
No, I quite gave it a lot of thought, but seems to make sense.
I think if we tried to fiddle around with it now, it'd be quite difficult because having gone through 2 consultations. Okay, if we're happy to agree that, that's fine. Move on to agenda item 8, which is the report from the Independent Remuneration Panel. What we're asked to do is consider a report and to make recommendations to Council. I've discussed this with Ian Corbett at some length. There are a couple of things that we thought we wanted to make amendments to. One, because the panel just didn't quite understand the nuance of the issue, and the second was an issue of fairness and equity. The issue where the panel, we believe, has got it wrong, and that's simply through lack of information rather than anything else, is the suggestion that the chair of the One Horton Heath Development Management Committee be given the same allowance as a local area committee chair. The two jobs are not the same at all. The local area committee chair is a much wider brief than the narrow brief of the chair of the One Horton Heath Development Management Committee. And so the suggestion is, we discussed this with Richard Gomer as well, and he totally agrees with this, so he's not getting any financial interest out of it, is that instead of going with the panel's recommendation and matching that with the local area committee chair, we match it with the chair of the admin committee, so that's half an area committee chair. So there's a bit of a saving that's attached to that, and the vice chair would then be an appropriate pro rata based on whatever half the local area committee vice chair is. There's a bit of a saving there, so that's the recommendation going into the meeting from myself and effectively from Incorporate 2. The second is a point on fairness, which is sounds like a fairly minor point, but it's the point around eye tests, which was a point that was introduced for councillors back in the 1990s, and it was based on the fact that people were using visual display equipment as a matter of routine for the first time. And the conclusion then was that councillors should have the same entitlement as staff to get their eyes tested free. Doesn't extend to getting contact lenses or glasses or anything like that, it's just a test. And that was considered to be part of the general kind of a bit like employment. Now, the panel are absolutely right, of course, to say that councillors are not employees, but certainly for those councillors who do not have other employment, they are as exposed as someone who would be employed or would be able to go to their employer to do an eye test. So our recommendation is we adjust that back to the existing policy, which is the retention of eye testing being available to councillors, not glasses and contact lenses and anything else, but just the testing bit, which is effectively part of what's recommendation E here. So we pick up the test and not the corrective eyewear. So that's two comments from the report from myself and Ian. Did anyone else have anything else they wanted to raise? And just if you haven't picked it up already, the idea is to introduce the mileage rate for bikes as well. And we already do run on receipts. There was one of the changes as well, which I just picked up on, which I can't quite find right now, which is around. Yeah, so the last part of D, this again is something where the panel quite hasn't picked up a nuance. It says that no other increase in subsistence allowance is recommended, but it's recommended consideration is given to align the subsistence allowance with the staff subsistence allowance in Appendix 2. Now, the staff subsistence allowance is really based around the fact that staff who do evening meetings are entitled to a subsistence allowance because of an evening meeting, typically picking up meals and things like that for a fixed amount which they can produce receipts for. If councillors were given that arrangement, it would mean that councillors would be claiming meals for going to every area committee meeting, which doesn't seem sensible at all. The councillor's role is quite different from the role of most staff. The existing arrangement has been in place for 20 odd years, 30 years. It works perfectly well. It's based on what was the predecessor of the LGA, the Association of District Council scheme for allowances, which is based on a fixed allowance for unusual travel arrangements and unusual arrangements such as evening meals, which for almost no occasion gets raised. It's basically on the odd occasion where a council goes to a conference rather than anything else. So thank you, Joe. I forgot that point. So the suggestion is we should delete that last sentence from D on that basis. Anything else anyone wants to raise on this report? Silence all out.
The only thing I would mention would be the fact that we pay quite a lot of money to people who drive per mile, and it doesn't encourage people to use public transport. And I do get it, because a lot of people find it difficult to utilise public transport because public transport is so poor. For example, as a non-driver, I cannot get myself to Hedge End when the meetings are held in the church. I have to rely on somebody else. But this, the way that these systems are set up, it favours a car owner over somebody who's reliant on public transport. So people who spend a lot more hours travelling and have to catch buses, get wet, wait in the rain and in the cold and in the dark, get a very small amount. And I'm surprised we don't say that people will be reimbursed the same amount as a public transport amount.
We currently, if you need to use a taxi, you can use a taxi. You can claim that.
There's nothing in here about taxi.
That's always been the scheme. I'm very rarely see people use taxis, I know, but the scheme has always allowed people to use taxis if there's no public transport available.
I'm just saying, it's, you know, that's the reality.
Because the reality is you can't get from
There's
Bishopsgate
no
to
way.
Hedge End, because it's the hardest journeys in the borough. You do Hedge End to Eastleigh, you do Chandler's Ford to Eastleigh, you can even do Hamble to Eastleigh just about, but Bishopsstoke to Hedge End, or Bishopsstoke to Eastleigh, or Bishopsstoke to Chandler's Ford is incredibly difficult by public transport, particularly in the evening. The current system does allow you to use taxis if you haven't got access to car or public transport. It's not causable here. We may need to just pick that up separately.
Yeah, that should come out of H as well, where H recommendation is about bringing everything together, so we've got it concise in one document.
Okay. So we'll pick that up as part
link it into that.
The mileage rate for cars is fixed at the HMRC rate, which has been the case, which has been fixed for the last 15 years, I think now, which hasn't picked up the additional costs of car usage that's been incurred since then. So I don't think people make a profit out of using their cars, frankly.
I don't think I've ever claimed anything.
No,
I've never claimed anything.
very few do. I mean, I use public transport to do London meetings quite frequently, so I claim rail fares, and some minor car fares, but that's about it. And that's what most people do. I think they've got other distances to go. Anything else anyone wants to raise? No. All right, so we picked up a few specific changes. One was around the eye test. The second was around subsistence. The third was around Horton Heath Development Management Committee. We're making a note about taxis to make sure that scheme is properly understood when we consolidate all this stuff later. Can we also add into recommendations to thank the panel for their work? Because they've done a good job here picking up all sorts of things that's useful tidying that wouldn't otherwise have picked up on, I suspect. So it's good to do that. And I would like to thank them. They did a very good professional job. And they were friendly as well when they interviewed us online. Listeners will see what interviewed. Everyone then content with those recommendations, which will then go on to council.
Yeah.
Good, thank you very much. I make it 11 minutes past 6, and because I've got no notice of other business, I'm going to close the meeting at that point. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
That was very